Howdy everybody, my name is Brett Chanko. I teach Spanish in the Richmond area of Virginia, and this video is the second video in a virtual learning instructional video series. The first video was about how I set up my teaching space physically, like my computer screens, my desk, my mouse, that kind of stuff. And this video is going to be dedicated to how I use technology and applications to deliver instruction and engage with instruction with my students, engage with students in my instruction. I want to talk about what instruction I want to deliver, right? So I'm a comprehensible input teacher, and I use a daily lesson format, which is called the, this was a collaboration between Ben Slavic and Tina Hargadin. It's called the STAR sequence. Tina has moved on to something called the daily framework of instruction, which is a little bit different. But for simplicity, I like to describe it as the STAR sequence, which the first stage of delivering a lesson is to create listening input for my students. Conversation, oral conversation about whatever topic you need to cover in your curriculum. And that takes, a good third of class or so, maybe even half of class, creating a learning scenario in which students are listening to input. Then you can review that quickly, and the rest of class is dedicated to text work. So we take that conversation that was floating around in the air orally, and then we work on developing literacy within that context. By doing a shared writing activity or by reading a writing activity that I have previously prepared about the daily conversation. So that's my style of instruction that I want to use virtually as well as a distance teacher. I don't want to change how I deliver content. I want to adapt that structure of having an oral conversation for the first half of class, and then for the second half of class, creating a textual experience that reviews that conversation. So, I found that you can do this amazingly well. You can engage your students amazingly well using a program called Desmos, a website called Desmos. And it's changed my life. So let me drag it in here. Desmos is a website. I don't know whether it's free or not. My county purchases a subscription for teachers, so it's free for me. I don't know. Maybe they have I don't know how much it costs really, but it's worth it. Whatever it costs, pay it because it's amazing. Let me take you through an example lesson. So here, this was September 21st. Let's just take my third block class. Okay, let's open this up. The names. When you anonymize the names, it changes your student roster into famous mathematicians, because Desmos is originally a mathematician, like a mathematics website. But I've kind of adapted it to apply for Spanish. All right, so right away on this summary screen as a teacher, you can see how visually appealing Desmos is. I have all of my students in class here. This class I have 25 students. All right, they're on the left. I can organize them by time entered or by name. By name is way easier. Notice that when you have them anonymized, it's not in alphabetized order because it's alphabetizing based on my actual roster, not the anonymized names, the anonymous names. All right, so there you go. You got your roster on the left, and then at the top, you can add questions or modules or whatever for students to interact with. In my case, I want to be able to come up with questions on the fly. So I've just put placeholders here. You see this? It just says question 1. It doesn't actually contain the content of question 1. It's just a placeholder question because you have to have this Desmos activity set up beforehand. And I don't know what I'm going to want to ask. So I just put the placeholder questions there, and then I maintain a Google document that is for class questions. All right, so this was September 21st for my 3 odd class. All right, so here's my 3 odd class, and here's the questions. So we'll go back to September 21st. So on this document, when I started class, it originally just said the date and it had number 1. That's it. And then when kids logged on, I said, okay, class, the first question of today on Desmos is, how are you doing today? How are you feeling today? All right. Right, I don't have to go through this. You can see it's right here. And then students went into their Desmos account, and for question 1, right, question 1, they answered, right? This response says, good, and you? Okay, I'm so-so, and you? Tired, and you? Right, you get the drift. The awesome thing about Desmos is that on this teacher screen, when students are typing, you see it live. And I have anonymized the names, but like during class, I've anonymized the names for this video because I want to protect the identity of my students, right? I don't want their names to appear on this instructional video. But during class, I actually see their actual names, right? So I see what they're working on, and I can like respond to them individually. It's amazing. All right, so we go on with class. Oh, and I forgot. This pacing button is essential. It's amazing. You can turn this pacing option on so that you can restrict students to certain screens, certain questions, right? So I always enable this. And so students cannot go on to other questions. Also, just as important, if I move the class to question 2, students can no longer access question 1. So there's a built-in time limit, right? If a student checked out, right, they're playing video games for 30 minutes, and they know that they can just like take a screenshot of my questions after class is done, right? Then they might just go play video games and then, right, like go and try to access these questions and fill them in after class. Nah, that doesn't fly because I force them onto certain questions. And as we move through class, those are the only questions that they have access to. And plus, I see their responses live, so if a student isn't responding right after the question is proposed, I don't know what I did there. Okay, if a student doesn't answer live right when I ask the question, I know that they're not participating, and I can have conversations or whatever. When during class I move from question 1 to question 2, I can literally see like a blue box where this student has moved from this to this. And the dot means that they have submitted an answer. So this student, for example, since it's question 1 and there's no dot, I know that they logged on late. This student, for example, I know that they weren't in class. Or rather, they were in class because their name appears on the roster for the daily Desmos, but they didn't fill anything out. So that's a 0 for, today's grade, this day's the 21st, their grade as like a formative grade. I grade them based on this. You can see that a couple students missed question 7, right? I don't know why. 1, 2, 3 students missed question 7. But you can see that, like, by and large, the class as a whole has participated actively throughout the entirety of the lesson from question 1 to question 8. It's amazing. So as a review, let's get into some actual questions. All right. So this day, the content of the lesson was a student interview about a student named Mia. Mia was born in a different country, in South Africa. So we were interviewing her to practice Spanish, And question 3, you can see on my daily question document. Question 3 was, what questions do you have for Mia? Because Mia is not from the United States, right? And let's see what the class as a whole wanted to ask Mia. You can see here that I'm using Desmos to generate class discussion, not just to ask students comprehension questions. You can use it for both. So the students, some students responded in Spanish, some students responded in English. Most often, I clarify, like here, en español, en una oración. That means in Spanish in a sentence. But sometimes, I say in English or in Spanglish. When I say in Spanglish, I mean like if you know most of the sentence in Spanish, you should put most of the sentence in Spanish. But if you need to use a word or two in English because you don't know it in Spanish, then keep the rest of the sentence that you know in Spanish, right, in Spanish, but say a word or two in English if you need to. All right. Right. So let's see what from the 21st. Let's see what questions the class had for Mia. Here we are. So where are you from? How old were you? Oh, for how long have you been in the United States? Right. Okay, which part of South Africa are you from? Lots of the same questions. What's your favorite place to visit in that country that you're from? I guess they didn't even know. I guess maybe they did know that they were South Africa. All right, let's see. So so I use that. I say in class like, "Ooh, this student, Mia, wants to know where you're from," and I do that in Spanish, right? But this is where having multiple screens comes in handy. I move this screen right here over to my other window that I'm not sharing with my students. I leave this window with the question up so that students can see what they're supposed to be doing in Desmos. But over here on my other window, right, I'm monitoring the student participation, right? Look. I'm monitoring what students are typing live in Desmos. And this is particularly beneficial because a lot of times students voice questions that are in Spanglish or in English because the point of the lesson is to learn new things. You can't always expect them to be able to do new things in Spanish, right? So I can take a question like from this one student. I can take this question, where's your favorite place to visit in that country that you're from? Like students aren't seeing that because it's on this window, but I can say, clase, Mia, Ana quiere saber cuál es tu lugar turístico favorito en South Africa, en Sudáfrica, right? So I'm taking Anna's question here that was written in English and voicing her thoughts in Spanish. And the class hasn't seen this English, so they have to attend to the target language usage and interpret the target language usage. And once again, all of this is happening live over here on my other screen. It's amazing, Desmos is, right? So, another really unique aspect about Desmos, I'll go ahead and drag this over here, is that I jump back and forth between the summary screen and the teacher screen, right? So I can see if all of my class is paying attention and has moved to the new question. But another application that's really important is that you can do a lot of pop-up grammar because later on in class here, later on in class here, I started asking questions related to our interview with Mia, but about the rest of the students in class. So Mia said that she was born in South Africa, in Johannesburg. So question number 5, is, I clarified in Spanish, where were you born? Now, the responses at first were full of stuff like this. They were saying, yo naciste in Richmond, or wherever, right? So this is obviously wrong, right? They've taken the second person singular from the question, you, but in talking about their self, they've not adapted the verb form to first person singular. They've left it as second person singular. So in the moment, I can see that the class needs some coaching. And so I can throw up on the screen there, I can throw up a little pop-up grammar lesson. Right? I can just pull up a little verb chart and say, class, here, it's a small image. Let me get a better image. Well, whatever. For this instructional video, this is fine. Right, naciste is the form used for tú. What's tú mean? Right, and they respond, you. All right, now, can you leave it as naciste when you respond about yourself? I. No, Mr. Chanko. All right, so how do you have to change naciste? How do you have to change the iste when you start talking about yourself? Oh, you need to put an I. Right, it takes 20 seconds. And, and then I can model that by saying, yo nací, or you know what, class, is even better? Just say nací, because the I, communicates that you're talking about yourself. And then you can see the result. This didn't look like this at first. There was a bunch of like, yo nacistes here, right? But look, everybody corrected it. And I didn't have to call out individual students, right? Because I can anonymize the names, or I could just leave it over on my teacher window that they can't see and just talk about it. I can just be like, oh, hey, a lot of people have responded with this form, naciste, right? But that's not what we need, right? And then after I explain it, I can just watch, right? I can watch over on my teacher screen here the change is being made. It's amazing. It's a really powerful tool. So let me show you how to actually set up a Desmos activity, because the website is, I'll tell you what, the website is not very intuitive. Okay, so when you're making your first Desmos activity, you're going to be on this screen like this, and I didn't really know where to go, right? I finally figured out that, like, if you click this custom button, there's an option. You won't have any of this stuff here. This is stuff that I've created. But you can add a new activity, right? And then I just call it by the date, because you have to have a unique one for each date. Because once the students, enter an activity and submit answers in an activity, you won't be able to use that activity for the next class. So you make your first activity. Let's call it test activity for instructional video, right? Anyone with the link. Don't do the private. Your students won't be able to access it. So create new activity. All right. There's lots of options, and most of them are math oriented. But the only option I use is I just say question 1 and that in the target language. And then I use the text input. And I do not want to show students their classmates' responses automatically. I can do that by sharing my screen, right? I can move the responses over to the screen which is being shared to my students over the Google Meet call. So I enable that option. And so students have the ability to type in this text box. And that's the only thing I do. If you were to create a Desmos before class as like a review activity, you could also use multiple choice. You could do ordered lists for like if you're doing like a story, or if you're doing a conversation about putting sentences in the order. You could have a sketch option where like you could say like, all right, class, for the next 30 seconds, I'm going to describe something in Spanish, and you've got to draw it. You could do check boxes for like, okay, class, which of the following are included in the Spanish that I'm going to say over the next minute. And then you could have like options in English, and they have to check them off. There's lots of possibilities here. But for live class, where I'm creating a new experience, not a review experience, the only thing I use is the text input option. And then from there, you can press this and duplicate screen. And then I just change it to pregunta dos, right? And then I just keep on duplicating until I have however many questions I want. At that point, you got to make sure you change the question number, right? But at that point, you can press publish once you're all set. And you can assign it to classes that you set up. You see, I've got all my classes here. So let's look at what that looks like, for my own classes. This is the 25th. All right. Let's make one for Monday, right? Let's get ready for Monday. Once you have an activity where you have your 10 questions that are just question 1, question 2, you can just copy and edit that. It literally takes like 30 seconds to get the next date set up. So here's all my questions, right? I've got them already. I just want to copy this over to a new date. It gives you when you make a copy, it gives you a new title, and I want to change that to September 26th. Or, you know what? Let's change it to the target language. Right? And so I've changed the title. Now let's press publish. At that point, I can assign it to all my classes on Monday. So I've got first block on Monday, and Monday is an even day. Right, in my county, we have even day classes and odd day classes. So let me assign it to my even day classes as well. So you can establish a Desmos activity and then apply it to individual classes without having to make a new Desmos for every class. It creates unique links for all of these. So when you want to share that with your students, you can click this student link button and then copy and paste it into a chat box or into your learning platform like Schoology or Canvas or Blackboard, whatever you use to communicate to your students, right? And this is a unique code for each class, even though it's just one Desmos activity. And then to actually enter the activity as a teacher, you just click View Dashboard. And you won't have any students, but at the beginning of class, your students will start popping in. I make sure to sort by alpha name, and I make sure to pace, so that way, if I want them to have 30 seconds to answer a question to really check for engagement, then I can move the class to question 2 after 30 seconds. And they know by now that there's a small accountability measure there, so that they can't take a break, right? They've got to use the bathroom before class, in between classes. They've got to be in front of their computer screen listening all the time, because I ask a question every couple of minutes, and the questions are completely unpredictable because I just think of them on the spot. And it's a beautiful thing. So, at this point, I think I'm going to show you some live footage from class, what that looks like with students. And then I'll pop back here and show you the last thing. We have everybody. Hola, clase. Hola. Buen día, buenas tardes. Pregunta número 1. ¿Cómo estás hoy?
¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo te sientes? ¿Bien? ¿Mal? ¿Terrible? ¿Excelente? Escríbelo en Desmos, por favor. Muchos estudiantes están bien. ¡Ey! Muy bien. Y algunos estudiantes están así. Y usted, oh, mis estudiantes son simpáticos. Tyson, thank you for asking, and you? Sierra, thank you for asking, and you? Everybody who is so self-centered that they forgot to ask about me. Please add it to your answer.
Senator Chalko over here be the master of guilt tripping.
That's right. That's right. Muy bien. Adana. Y'all take a look at Adana's response here. She's got y tú, which does indeed mean and you. However, there's two ways of saying and you. Y tú is the informal version, and then y usted also means and you, but it's the formal version, right? So for talking to teachers or anybody older than you or anybody you don't know well, y usted is the version that you're gonna want for and you. Okay, yo estoy estoy bien. No estoy fantástico, pero estoy bien. Muchas gracias. Ok. La segunda pregunta de la clase. ¿Qué hiciste durante el fin de semana? You can just do as much Spanish as you can. ¿Qué hiciste? Hiciste. Bam. Hiciste es did you do? Hiciste. ¿Qué hiciste este fin de semana, chicos? En inglés o español o Spanglish. Oh, I see some Spanish coming on the screen. Okay, bien. Wow, Isaac, dos. Okay. Wow, interesante. Okay, primero vamos con David. La Bella.
Hello there.
David La Bella. David dijo que miró fútbol americano. David.
Right, so at the beginning of this presentation, I talked about what my daily lessons look like. So that Desmos I use for the creation portion of class where we're creating oral conversation. I use it for the review, to ask review questions, and I also use it to check for comprehension and for engagement during the writing portion of class. So at this point, I'm showing you how we do the writing and the reading portion of class, and also the extension portion of class if I do some kind of like exit ticket or some kind of student application. So let's take a look at the yearbook. I call it a yearbook. You could call it text from class, whatever. So this was the date that in question with the class in question, Ellie and Ellie's trip. Ellie was the special person for the day. We interviewed her. So we talked about how she went to Japan. So I put a little image of Japan, and then we talked about how she went to Tokyo. And so like I'm writing some of the things as we go through class. I am taking notes in Spanish so that students can improve in their literacy as the conversation is going on. In the past, when we were in the class, I did this textual summary at the end of class. But now that we're distanced and I'm at my computer the entire lesson, I'm creating the textual summary as we go. So when I ask Ellie the next question, which was from Kelsey, I say like Kelsey asked Ellie, Ellie, where did you go in Japan? Right? So they see that appearing as I'm saying it orally. I think it's very powerful. It's a very powerful way of teaching. It might even be better than what I was doing in the classroom, to have the textual summary appear gradually as we're talking about it, rather than at the end of class. So I'm taking notes as we go along here, and then at the end of class, we read it. I just say, all right, now I'm going to read this in Spanish. Please attend to the reading. Hoy, la fecha de hoy es el 23 de septiembre. El título de la clase hoy es A Ellie le encanta viajar. Viajar. Clase. ¿Qué significa viajar? I don't know if I did that live. Let's ask the questions. Did I ask about viajar? No. But I could have been like, clase. En Desmos, la próxima pregunta, the next question is, ¿qué significa viajar en inglés? And then I could move us over from question 2. I mean, this is from the other class date, right? I can move us from question 7. You know, we were on question 7. The new question is question 8. I can move us all over to question 8. Right. So that's the final piece of the puzzle in my teaching, is that I have a document I call the yearbook, where every page is a new text date. So look at all the text that we've generated. Right? This was a class about the student from South Africa. This was a class where we were talking about animals, and you know, we talked about what animals people have. This was a class where I was introducing myself and my family. So this is a beautiful thing. I can't believe how powerful Desmos is in generating engagement and checking for comprehension in a way that you can see what your students are doing live, and you can ask a question every 2 or 3 minutes in class to ensure engagement the entire time. I love it, and I hope that you all try it for yourself. I know that some other programs, here, let me make my face big here so you can get a nice mugshot. I know that some other programs offer similar services. Like, I know that Nearpod has the functionality of asking live questions, which is really what I want to do. I want to be able to ask spontaneous questions based on where the conversation goes. I know that Nearpod has that live questioning feature, but the report, this screen right here, the teacher summary screen, is just, it's such a powerful way to monitor your students' engagement. And then the teacher screen, where you can see what they're responding live, is just absolutely amazing. And the ability to drag it from screen to screen, when you want the answers to be shared, and then when you want the answers to not be shared, is fantastic. All right, that's it. If you haven't checked out my video about the physical space, go check it out. I think it's really useful, and happy teaching.